Great. So the talk that we're going to present right now is when to move from standard products and quotes to CPQ. We're talking really about Salesforce CPQ within this, rather than lots of different tools. But it's kind of the same mentality. It's really about when it's worth taking the time to look at CPQ and what it can do, and how that kind of compares to the sort of standard functionality that you have in there. But also a lot of the kind of signals that we see that it's just worth taking a bit of time to investigate that. So who am I? Why am I talking about this really? So my name is Gardner. I'm a senior Salesforce consultant at Nebula Consulting. I've been there for about 3 years and worked with CPQ throughout that time since I've been there. But yeah, I've been in the ecosystem for quite a bit longer than that, admittedly, originally really as a user. So as a salesperson using the system and also within account management, that kind of thing as well. But yeah, really concentrated in on CPQ from the point of joining Nebula, say just under 3 years ago, and got the certification as well in that time there as well. So today we're really going to be talking about the, well, first of all, just a quick overview as to what CPQ is, and then we're going to go into those kind of telltale signs that I alluded to earlier on. There's kind of 4 that I've broken it down into, and they're just the signs that we see that it's worth investigating. And within that, we'll go into some of the functionality that you have within CPQ and why it's there before we go into the roundup and then Q&A. Obviously, the Q&A will be a case of asking questions as we're going on, but I'll be available throughout this talk as well for any questions that may come up as well during that time. Great. So what is it? What is CPQ to start off with? Just to make sure everyone's on the same base. It'd be good to see actually in the tool, if you can just sort of click on there to let me know if it's a tool that you've used or use at the moment. And also, particularly if you're someone who uses Salesforce but doesn't even use products at this point in time, it'd be interesting to get an idea of the type of people who are interested in looking at this tool. But yeah, CPQ itself stands for Configure, Price, Quote. And the configure side of that is about making sure that you're seeing the products that you want to be able to see. So the classic example of that is that if you're selling a computer, for instance, with a keyboard to someone in France, you don't want to send them a keyboard that is an American keyboard. They want to see a French keyboard. So it's about making sure that the right products are there and available at the right times, so that you're putting together the quotes in the right way. The price side is really about the sort of different pricing methods that people put in place within their businesses, and sort of enabling more of those kind of methods than are naturally available within standard Salesforce. And it's worth mentioning actually that everything in CPQ has been built on the platform originally before it was purchased by Salesforce as well. So everything can be built, but obviously as a tool doing everything and being updated, it's having all of that ability tends to be quite useful. But if it is a very small bit you need, then that's available there as well. From the quote side of things, the quote really is talking about it being a dynamic quote and growing out the abilities there. And I won't go too much into that now because we'll talk about it later on anyway, in one of the main points that we go into later on. As far as the image on the right as well, it's very much a standard image that comes within CPQ, but it's really good at explaining kind of what happens really in the kind of the circle of things throughout Salesforce, the kind of chronological journey that people tend to go through. One thing as well that's worth mentioning is that CPQ is an install package. It is something you install into the system that gives extra abilities. And it's often described as well as CPQ and billing, and that's actually 2 different products. So billing is the 2 elements on this circle that they've got new next to them, so the payment and the invoice. And billing really is a whole other beast. It's very much a talk for another day. So we're not going to go into those elements at all today. We're mainly going to just involved in a lot of the kind of pre-sale side of things now. So I really work as a CPQ architect now, really. So you get involved in seeing a lot of different companies who are looking at CPQ, but also at other products. And a lot of these telltale signs are really taken from that experience. So when I first go to see a customer, I like to turn up a little bit early, listen to some of the sort of conversations that are happening, and walk through the sales floor if it's all possible as well, because you see quite a lot of the way that people operate and the sort of things that might be happening there. And a classic example of that really is the first element that we'll go into. And that's the classic of calculators on desks. Now, we see this a lot. You'll see a salesperson there on the phone last day of the month frantically tapping away at a calculator, or with two screens there, one of which is solely being used for an Excel spreadsheet to actually work out the pricing, and the other one being used to enter that pricing manually into the system, having done that. So got them on the phone, going between the two, trying to make sure everything's in line, that they haven't missed anything, that kind of thing. And this can work to a degree. Obviously, lots of companies do it successfully, but it can indicate certain issues. Now, the first of these is that if you're doing that, it means that your system isn't really handling the complications that your business has, and that's probably due to the way it's set up, or because you're selling in a way that just doesn't really fit into the standard mechanisms that are in there, or you've tried to build something that hasn't quite worked, that kind of thing. But it will also indicate other things to me, having worked in sales. The first and most obvious, really, is that the sales guys might be doing interesting things within the way that things are configured within their pricing. And that's what I mean by that is that if you're tapping away on the calculator, you may well make errors, but also there's no visibility as to exactly what you've offered, exactly what you've done. All that you can see in the system is the kind of bottom line. This is the quantity, the sales price, and the discount that was given. And that's kind of it, within the system. But also means that things might get missed and that kind of thing. But you start to see some interesting report issues that come about in this. And as an example of that, a couple of weeks ago, I was in a meeting with a few people in a company who were looking at CPQ, and the CFO there was just complaining about how on earth is it that you could have two opportunities with the same products on that were sold on the same day, but somehow, even though they're given the same discount, had a different price at the end. And when it turned out to be is that one of the salespeople, had put in a value discount before a percentage discount, and the other salesperson done it the other way around. So you ended up with a different value at the end. And it's that kind of lack of control and lack of visibility that can lead to quite a lot of frustrations within the company. And it's just sort of just shows that there's a lack of control within that to a certain degree as well. Now, CPQ looks at this kind of problem and has different ways that it's controlled to, or can be configured to resolve those issues. And two of the main ways that it does it is through the price rules and the discount waterfall. Now, it's probably a good time to actually show you what the tool looks like. So this is a screenshot from the quote line editor. And the quote line editor is where you do the majority of your configuration, you do your pricing control, you basically set everything up within the way that the customer will see the pricing, but it also carries out a lot of the calculations for you as well. And I'm very aware there's a lot of information on this screen. So first of all, I'll just hone you in on the area I've highlighted there, just some sort of the quantities and the list unit prices. And the reason I highlight this is because this is a sort of classic area where something like the price rule can come into effect. So the idea of a price rule is that you can control the value or the information that's shown in one field based on other information, and that can control lots and lots of different things. So we've put together, for instance, GP calculations, because you have cost price as a concept in CPQ, to really work out exactly what the GP is, that the gross profit is that's coming out. But you can also do things like, if you sold a printer, for instance, you want 2 boxes of paper to go with each printer, you can just control it so it does it. So you sell 1 printer, automatically the paper is added, and you've got 2 on there. You switch it up to 8 printers, then it will just switch to 16. It's just done for you. It's something that the salesperson doesn't have to think about, doesn't have to worry about or miss potentially in certain situations. So it's just about giving you that extra level of control. And you can control that, be it on a formula basis, you can do summary variables, you can just give straight values, all of that kind of stuff, so a lot of control. And also worth mentioning, actually, the formula field, if you're doing it for a formula within a price rule, doesn't actually have a limit to it. So I've seen some massive formulas, sort of up to 47,000 character kind of formulas that are working fine, just function very well, very precisely, and do things for you. But you can break those out as well. There's obviously lots of different ways that you can control that, do it in a slightly more best practice way. But it's a very, very powerful tool that comes in. Now, another thing I just wanted to bring your attention to is the fact that you can group the products together. And in standard, this is hard, to be frank, to get it to move across. If you're doing it completely standard, then you pretty much got to do a hack where you create a line that gives a different name and says everything under this is this. And it's basically a product line, and you start to get into other things. Whereas in CPQ, you can break this out a lot. And the group is actually its own object as well. So you're able to do a lot more control within everything that shows through there. We see sort of 3 main use cases really, groups of things like orders, an order being split into different sections, possibly go to different locations. So one to London, one to Berlin, one to Rio, whatever it happens to be, kind of splitting out exactly as it is. But the way this will then present to the customer is as different sections with different totals. So you can do things like year 1, year 2, year 3. There is a multi-dimensional quoting process that you can use for that kind of thing as well, but a lot of people tend to like to use the groups like that, or even different options. This is our preferred option. This is other options that you might take as well. So you've got a very clear example. And within the last option there, within standard, what you'd really need to do is create multiple quotes, one for each option for the customer. So it just makes it much easier for the customer, but much easier to just work in a more productive way in the system as well. So I just wanted to mention the groups there. And the other element I just want to bring your attention to is the ability to discount. So discounts work in multiple different ways. You have a discount waterfall structure as well. So for instance, you've given an account level discount, and that's all part of the tool as well, to sell, say, we're going to say on 15-inch laptops in this particular example, we're going to give a 20% discount from this point in time to this point in time, and that will be there, that will just get applied first, and then any other discounts get applied afterwards. So you've got that level of control the finance department will want. But on the quote level, you can also give discounts at different points as well. So for instance, at the top here, you've got the ability to give a percentage discount for the quote as a whole. You can also do it at group level, or you can do it at line level. And at line level, you can do lots of different things, whether that's a percentage discount, a value discount. You can say exactly what the unit price is. And you can even just say what you want that total line to be, and it will control it and work perfectly well throughout the system. So it's just about giving you that extra level of control there, enabling you to do the calculations for you as well, rather than really needing something external to do it. Now, the second one here is selling wrong products, and we see this a lot. This is surprisingly normal, really, that it happens. There's obviously costs applied to that, whether that's the cost of having to send out another product, and there's simply the postage sort of side of things. That's the cost of reputation, the cost of people's time, particularly into the customer success teams. So there's lots of different ways that can impact the business. And that tends to lead to further approvals processes or checks being in place to control exactly what does go out to a customer, so it can't happen. And very importantly as well, it can also generally lead to people not selling add-ons. If they've got a list of 2,000 products and they're just trying to make sure they've got the right one so it doesn't get delayed when it goes back through, they're not thinking about the extra things they can sell. And the way CPQ approaches this is, again, a few different ways. But the two main areas that always stood out to me is the ability to put products into bundles and have proper control over what shows, and also the product rules. So you can sort of say, only show this when that kind of thing. But product rules also go into other areas as well. Now, to show you the way that kind of works and give some examples on that, this is the configure products area. So if you've selected a product that is a bundle, you'll then get sent through to the configure screen, depending actually on how you got that line, but generally that's the way that will work. And then you've got control in here. So we've got different areas, 2 areas there, the memory and the storage, that are sections of products within the bundle itself. If we hone in here on the memory area, you've got a control here where you can say one of these options has to be selected, but only one can be. So, if you select the 32 gig option, for instance, then the 8 gig will disappear. So the salesperson, again, doesn't have to remove a product line or do any of that kind of control. It's just done automatically for you. You can also control it from the point of view of saying you have to have at least 2 of the products within this section. And actually, the optical drive here is ticked, cannot be unticked. It's just there, it's available. It has to be sold. But you can add more than one if you like, but at least one of the other options. So, we could then change this down to the 500 gig, or maybe put that on as well as the 4 terabyte option. So you've got that sort of level of detailed control. So again, the salesperson is just guided through it. And there is a guided selling option as well with different questions that can be answered and then give you out the suggestions of what you can sell. But most people tend to just like doing it in this area as well, so that it's done for you. You know, you can say, we're selling to the US, then actually remove all of the UK products, for instance. So you've got that kind of level of control. Now, the product rules also give you the ability to put on suggestions for those ad sales that might have got missed. So say, for instance, we'd put on here that we're going to sell the 4 terabyte with the 8 gig of RAM. It might come back and you might have a pop-up that says, this might not work too well, or even actually if someone sells the 4 terabyte, then they get a cheaper price on the 32 gig option. So, you know, you can then say, well, actually, yes, let's do that. So you pop that in, it flips across, all the pricing's done for you. You can actually be on the phone with the customer, and it's all just done without you needing to spend a lot of time reconfiguring or missing that option as well. Great, so the third area we're going to come into is which document should I use? And this very much comes from experience of things I hear now, but also my experience of working with Salesforce. So within the standard quotes area, you tend to you create your quote within the designer here that's shown on the screen at the moment, and you can put in the text you like. It's very set, it's very sort of put together, and that's quite a big step on from where I was, which was generally asking my mate Stu which document he sent, and then getting it, making some alterations, and then sending it through to the customer. And quite frankly, I didn't really check the terms and conditions or anything like that. All of those kind of things that are very important to a business, that wasn't what I was interested in. And that can obviously lead to, well, not just time for me checking it, but upset with the customer. All of those kind of things can happen. Now, within standard Salesforce, you can put this together very precisely to make sure the terms and conditions are correct, but you need to put lots of different templates for different circumstances. It doesn't have any intelligence as to what is selected. So you're relying on the salesperson selecting the right option. So say, for instance, you've got 3 different products that if you sell have to have different terms and conditions, then you have to have 3 different templates. Say, for instance, you want to just only show the discount sort of total that's given. If you've given a discount, so you don't give the customer some ideas, then actually immediately, if you've got that and those 3 different terms and conditions, you've got 6 templates you need to select from, and it can grow out very, very quickly, and realistically means that you end up with a very limited document that goes to the customer for signature at a very vital point in the sale as well. And on top of that, because of that, mistakes can be made, so you end up with a pretty arduous approvals process that comes into play as well. Undoubtedly from the business, just to make sure that the right thing is going through. Now, in a slightly unfair comparison, I just got an image of a document that's straight PDF that comes out of CPQ. The reason I've done like this is it's quite hard to visualize exactly how it works because it's more complicated within CPQ. And the way that they do it is they break each part of the page into a section, and you then have control over those sections. So worth mentioning as well that each section is HTML, so you can control exactly what it looks like exactly what it looks like on the document. You've got a lot more control there, but you can then also control what shows. So we can say, for instance, with the signature area there, that we only want that to show if it's been approved. In actual fact, if it hasn't been approved, let's stick a watermark in the background, just to show that it's it's a draft, for instance, that kind of thing. But you've got that level of intelligent control in the document, which means you've got a lot more trust in the document that goes out. You can also put in the right terms and condition if a certain product's been chosen. You've got so much control there, it really grows out what you're able to send to the customer and to be comfortable sending to the customer as well. You can even control the columns within the product table. So if you haven't sold a discount, then the column as a whole disappears. Obviously, you have different total box as well, that kind of thing. But yeah, just actually controlling the product tables just to give you a lot more kind of trust really in what is sent, and that it's going to be signed through. The salesperson doesn't need to waste time doing this, putting the document together. We actually have one customer, Cameron Hooper, who 120 people as a whole in the business, obviously not all using Salesforce, but they save 40 hours a week. Mainly, well, not mainly, but quite a lot of that time was in sort of putting together these documents. And that obviously had a colossal impact on their business as well. And you've also got things like hierarchical approvals around making sure that the right people are signing off at the right time, and you're not asking for people multiple times as well. Now, the final area I'm going to go into is massive bugbear of mine, and this is where you find customers sell in to the customer in the way their system works rather than the way that the customer actually wants to buy. And this can be for multiple reasons, but the main sort of outcomes is that you will lose business. But particularly, you can't adapt. You can't say, "Oh, let's try doing batch sort of pricing models. Let's put this together and let's see whether people want to buy us what they're feeding back. So let's give it a try." You can't do that kind of stuff. So it leaves you with quite a sort of detriment, really, within the sort of particularly the current climate around being able to adapt and do exactly as customers want and need. And that leads to some friction and such like in there. And the idea of CPQ is it gives you a lot of different price models, gives you things like amendments, cost prices, all of that kind of stuff. So you've got things like subscriptions in there, properly done, so that you can say which products are subscriptions, which are assets, all of that's controlled. You've also got, let's say, things like the GP on there, because you've got cost prices, you control everything there, control your approvals process from it. You've got different price models like doing cost plus, you can do percentage of total, like batch discounts within stuff, bulk pricing, all of these kind of things. There's lots of different ways that it works to make sure that it fits the way that you want, the way that you need it to work. And you also have the ability to do amendments, and this is colossal. This is such an advance. It's quite easy to set a process builder to say when this opportunity is closed one, create another opportunity. But then what happens if there's an amendment? And this is all part of CPQ. So if there is one, you just click on that amendment button, put in the changes you want to see and the dates that they apply from and to, and then it'll create an amendment opportunity for you so that everything's kept in line for now. But it will also update the renewal opportunity just to make sure that everything flows better from an ongoing perspective. Great, so they're the main areas I was going to go into. As a roundup, I would definitely say that if two areas, if you've got two or more areas that have really run true with you, then it's really worth spending some time investigating CPQ. You may find there's just one actually that's just really rings true. And it's worth spending that time to investigate the tool and see whether there be a good sort of ROI for you as a business. And in doing that, just speak to somebody who really knows the tool, speak to someone who's implemented it, got to know it, really understands the kind of intricacies of how it works and what it can do. Just even if that point where you're just literally looking at it as a tool, it's definitely worth doing just to see whether there's an advantage there. We have plenty of customers we speak to, for instance, who it's just not quite the right tool. There's some sort of small business case, but it's not. There's other ways that they could get around their issues. So it's worth bringing someone in who knows the tool, because it can take a long time to get to know. It is big, it's complicated. It isn't the cheapest tool in the world. The licensing price is there, and the implementations can be big depending on the complexities of your business. But at the end of the day, it will give you a lot more control in the system. Excellent. So that's all from me. So obviously, I'm available for questions and answers. I believe that you'll have a box there for any questions that you have, and that'll come through to me. I hope that's been enjoyable, and I look forward to catching up with you all at some point. Thanks. Bye.
Blockchain can help feed more people. And AI can help care for people. VR can help train people. Let's use technology for people to make a greater good in every community, every day. Accenture. New applied now.